Fabulous. Hello, welcome. Good evening. Much lighter now. We've got light coming in, so it's been a nice day. I'm not sure about the weekend in terms of the forecast. It looks a bit wet and windy where we are. But for now, let's enjoy the sunshine. In a similar vein to last week, we'll have a bit of a kind of pick and mix or potpourri of movements. Hopefully that will suit everybody. I will do my usual mix of seated and standing. So let's get started, shall we? I'm going to start standing up for a change. You all know the rules. Look after yourselves, work as you wish. And we're going to start with a movement from Shibashi Part 2. So there's 3 parts to Shibashi. We've done Part 1 in previous weeks. So I'm just going to introduce a movement here. So we're picking up the hands like we might do at the beginning of Part 1, only this time they go up overhead. Let me step back. And then the palms turn out, and then we drop down. Now, depending on you, you might be able to have a little bend forward, a hinge, a little bend of a knee maybe, and then we pick the hands up again. Simple. So again, work with your body, how it moves, and just start with this movement. So it's a big open movement, and that's pretty much what it's called. Opening movement. Very simple. If you wish, you can have a big breath in, followed by a breath out on the down, if you wish. Do that one more time. And then watch out for this transition. I'm going to bring my palms together, like so. And then I'm picking them up, bringing them up, and then circling them forwards. Again, if you're able to have a little hinge and a bend, forwards, up. And that's the movement. Palms together. Please don't force your palms together if you've got hands and wrists that don't give you that flexibility. Just again, it might just be finger pads or fingertips that are together, but this is the movement. In our community classes, we've called it choo-choo because it kind of feels a bit like a steam train. So, but it's kind of nice. That's it. And of course, anyone who's watching later who might be seated, again, all of these movements can be done seated. Okay, stop there. And we'll do one more movement. So that was the second movement out of Shibashi Part 2. Let's do one more movement from that set, and it's a bit more evocative in its name. Wind or breeze blowing through the willow trees. That's a bit more like it, isn't it? It's really simple in some respects. We're just letting the hands float forwards and backwards. Backs of the hands are facing upwards, palms down. And we've just got this nice rotation. The trick is to be as loose and as free and as comfortable as you can in your shoulders, arms and hands, which actually isn't as easy as it can sound because we can sometimes carry so much tension. So this is a good way to see if we can just let some of that tension go. Try not to hold any position. This isn't yoga, so you've got to try and just let things flow from one position to the other. Again, if you sat down, you may have to have your hands and arms on the outsides of armrests and avoid knocking into anything. But that's it. Wind blows through the willow trees. Well, I say that's it, but I'll demonstrate this seated and standing. we can have a foot forward. I'm going to start with my right foot, which is my prosthetic leg. We might choose to just have it forward a little bit. So I've just moved it forward a little bit. Let me step back again. So I've just taken a bit of a step. Means that I don't have to bend that knee if I don't want to. I can keep that knee pretty straight. So if it's my right leg, the right hand will take the lead. And now we've got a bit more of an open posture. There's a bit of weight shift if that is tolerable for you in terms of loading that front leg and front knee. And if you sat down, you could push that right leg forwards if possible to give you some support, like we've shown on previous movements. So that's kind of nice. I hope so. If you've got the scope, you can take a bigger, longer step if you wish, but let's swap to the left. Again, a bit of a little step forward. This is my intact leg. And again, I say it almost every week, I'm more unbalanced with my intact leg forward than I am with my prosthetic leg forward. So again, just work comfortably. So I've got to be very careful looking after my balance on this side. So again, it's more about rotation through the hips as we go. And hopefully you're able to start to just let the hands and arms relax. It's almost as if you focus on rotation through the shoulders and you just let the hands and arms kind of follow that rotation and they just flow forwards and back. Okay, come to a halt. Another way to get into that idea of letting the hands and arms go, this is this quality of sung, to let go or relax, is if we stand on the spot and we shift our weight forward a little bit, and that's just going to swing the hands forward. And then I shift my weight back, and that's going to let the hands swing back. And we just begin to shift our weight from the heel towards the toes and back again. You've got to, again, just be mindful of your balance. It's a surprising, whoop, here you go. I lost my balance backwards as I'm chatting away. So if you do lose your balance, take some compensatory steps. Don't worry if you do, it's okay. It's actually a very difficult movement to control, particularly with lower limb prosthetics, unless you've got a very fancy foot, which I don't. So just whoop, I'm going to take a step. There you go. See? But that's interesting. That helps us understand, A, the challenge that we have, but also how movements where we're leaning a little bit forward or leaning a little bit back. So I had to do this when riding a train, sardines at 7 o'clock in the morning or 5:30 in the evening, standing room only, and maintain my balance on a moving train. And there's all kinds of starts and stops. And again, you realize just how difficult it can be, but it's useful then to practice it as a skill. In a similar way, we can do the same thing side to side. So now I'm placing my hands on my hips and I'm just going to shift my weight from one leg to the other through the hips. And again, just getting used to the idea of weight shift. Again, for people with limb loss, limb difference, people in wheelchairs as well, weight shift from one side to the other can be difficult. We tend to constrain ourselves. We tend to guard against these movements. Tai Chi gives us an opportunity to explore these movements in a safe way, begin to understand the boundary between being stable and being balanced. Again, those are all key concepts. So these are kind of little morning routines that I tend to do every day, not in a formal way. I've got my kettle on, I'm getting coffee ready and things like that. And I just do these movements in the kitchen while I'm kind of having breakfast and getting into the morning. And they're just nice, easy ways to wake my brain up and coordination and all sorts of things like that. Let me just sit down. Again, for people who are seated and for you who may be standing but sat down, we can do some of the similar things, simply just shifting weight forward and recognizing that how much weight comes onto the legs or onto the thighs and then backwards, how much the tummy muscles need to tighten up and the back. Same side to side, weight shift from one hip to the other. Tai Chi is really based on these simple movement patterns, and we turn them into a little exercise that we can use to explore things. So again, nothing magic about Tai Chi. It's taking simple things and using them as a means to find out something interesting about ourselves, about our bodies. Okay, let's do another movement. Let's do the fountain or parting clouds. Here we're looking up, and again, that can be a challenge, seated and standing as we do this movement. So again, if you're standing up, you may want to have one foot slightly forward, and that just helps maybe with your balance, or you may be happy standing just square on, hip width apart. But if you find that having one leg slightly forward of the other helps, then do so. The Tai Chi police aren't going to come and take us away. You don't have to worry. Lovely. But that looking up, again, challenges our balance quite significantly. Even sat down. Okay. So come to a rest. We'll hold a beach ball. One hand on top. Familiar movement for most of you, I think. The bottom hand comes forward over the top, pressing up and down to create this S shape, parting the earth from the sky. So whether we're seated or standing now, we should hopefully feel a lot more stable. Stopped the weight shift and we're just maintaining our posture as we alternate one hand and then the other. Try to have a sense of letting everything relax. Let some tension go from the back. And then as we bring the next hand up, lengthen as we do so momentarily. And then again, let everything relax. This idea of opposition, yin, yang, is contraction followed by expansion, and then vice versa. And it's constantly moving between those two extremes. I'm expanding, and now I'm relaxing, and I'm really trying to let everything relax without slumping. And then the same here, I'm expanding, but I'm not overstretching either. We're working within a comfortable range. Lovely. Let the hands go. Shake out. So rotation, again, seated or standing. Wai Zao. Simple movement, but it builds in some important rotation. So I'm looking to my right, as if someone calls my name, lifting my palms, and then just returning to where we began. And then turning to the left. lifting palms and then back to the beginning. You can have a breath in with the turn, followed by a breath out as we return back to the beginning, and then same on the left side. Breath in if you wish, breath out as we turn back. Again, we've got this idea of expansion as we turn, and then this contraction or returning to the center as it's called, before opening, expanding again. So again, there's that dynamic of change that is indicative of what Tai Chi is about. One extreme back to another. Stillness into activity, and then back to stillness again. That's the dynamic. Once more, for the last time, I'm on my left side. Don't worry if we're a little bit out of sync. And keep the idea of rotation going. And again, I'll do this seated, but if you're standing up, and I'm going to use my left hand, and I'm sweeping it across to the right as if throwing a ball, or casting my cares away, and then right hand across to the left. And I'm looking in the direction in which I cast my cares away, but I'm getting this nice gentle stretch through the shoulder and the upper body as I do so, from left to right. Breathing just naturally with this movement. And we'll do one more. And back. Okay, I'm going to stand back up again. And we'll build some more weight shift in. Let's choose pushing waves. Very indicative. We've got the option to have a square stance, no step forward, and simply push, or if you're seated, you're pushing, and then lifting the hands clear, bringing them back. You might want to have a little bit of weight shift, like we explored earlier, forwards, and a little bit of weight shift back onto the heels, a little bit just to explore that range again. If you're seated, again, there's a little lean forward perhaps and a bit of a lean back as we do so. If you wish, I'm just going to do this naturally. I'll just take a little pace forward. And then I can use that leg for support. And again, if you sat down, you can do the same. Push one leg forward if you can. Use it for support. Again, you've got to work with your body to make sure that you're stable. And I might bring that leg back as I rock back, and then maybe the left leg, the intact leg. Got to be careful though, because my balance is not so stable on this side. So I've got to just maybe ease back on the push and pull, the lean forward and the lean back, and just feel my way into that movement. And these are all the qualities of Tai Chi, this sense of exploration, of examination, and of being curious and asking little questions. Finding out. Let's make this the last one. Again, whether we're seated or standing. Okay. A little swap from those Shibashi movements to tiger from 5 animals. Again, can be a challenging movement. We're taking our tiger claws, reaching down if we can, imagining that we're picking up something heavy. I always think of it as the rug of the earth. And then we're picking it up and pushing it overhead. And then it's very apposite for today because we've got blue sky. So we pull the blue blanket of the sky down, bring some clarity down to earth, and then we push down and we're ready to start again. Taking our claws and pulling up on the rug of the earth. It's heavy. And then pushing it overhead. Again, it's quite heavy, so we've got to brace. And then pulling down. There's some resistance there as we take the blue blanket of the sky and push it down to earth. Again, gentle resistance. You can have a breath in if you wish as we pull up, and a breath out as we push overhead. You can have a breath in as we pull down, followed by a breath out as we push back down. Or we can just breathe naturally, focus on the movement, pressing, pulling, and just being aware of those alternating dynamics. So again, yin and yang, we've got a pull first of all, and then a push. Follow, pull, and then a push. Just like so. Tiger. Really important movements that we need in day-to-day life. Let me sit down for the next couple of movements. Ooh. So back to holding a ball, beach ball, whatever you like. And again, here's some rotation, turning in the direction of the top hand, whichever one it is, left or right, rotating the ball and then turning in that direction of the top hand. So right hand, turn to the right, left hand on top, turn to the left. And we're wanting to have this smooth rotation, control of the hands and upper limbs. Again, if we're talking about upper limb loss, then we're having to focus on the extremities of the distal part of the residual limb, perhaps, as we do so. But again, there's rotation. There's a little bit of shift of weight as well, if you take notice, from one leg to the other. Not too much, but there's a bit. We're going to come back to the center. And then we're brushing the hands apart. The top hand goes backwards, the front hand comes forwards. And if we're standing up or sat down, we find a surface for this bottom hand to rest on, maybe an imaginary table or worktop. And this hand's just out in front. And then we turn the palms, bring them back together, and we brush them against one another in opposite directions. Now, like so. Drawing the hands past one another, sliding them past one another. Coming back to that hold the ball position and then sliding them again. So whichever hand is on the bottom, you can just push the corresponding leg. So my right hand is on the bottom, so I push out the right leg. If you're standing up, maybe a little step, and then take the hand out. As I bring the hands back to hold the ball, I bring that leg back in. And now I do the same with the opposite leg. It's left hand that's going to go out. So I just shift my left leg forward a little bit and then out go the hands. And then I draw that leg back in. And if I stand up, so where am I? I've got my right hand on the bottom. I just do a little pace and then maybe a little bit of weight shift, and there you go. And then I turn my hands, I bring my weight back and just stand square on, left hand on the bottom. So now maybe it's just a tiny pace. And once again, I just let the hands fall into place. One hand finding a surface, the other hand just coming out. I'm just going to step back so you can see my feet a bit better. So right hand goes out, right foot takes a tiny pace as we do so. And then back. Stepping back, and now it's the left leg. Little pace. It's almost like you're just adjusting your balance rather than taking a big step. Think of it as just kind of picking up a foot just to adjust your balance in relation to something else. Again, maybe you're riding a train and you need to just take a little compensatory step and reach out just to catch your balance. Let's do that once more on both sides. Again, if you sat down, you can just be alternating which leg you push forward. So that movement's called parting, the wild horse's mane. In fact, I'll do it one more time on both sides because I like it. Parting the wild horse's mane. So you're brushing the hands through a long horse's mane, if that gives you the right feeling. Wonderful. Just come back, make sure you're settled and stable, still holding that ball. And then we can just take the hands, lace finger and thumb together. There we go, come back. And just bring the hands to rest on our lower abdomen or tummy. That's what we might call it, just below the navel. And just breathe without controlling the breath. Just be aware of your breath. Take notice. You might want to just emphasize the breath and let it go completely, sung, without overemphasizing it too much. And then just breathe a couple of cycles. There you go. I don't know about you, but for me, that felt like time out of time today. All of a sudden, I'm looking at the clock and it's going past 7 o'clock. I hope that's been enjoyable, again, for you who might be watching later, as well as you guys who have joined us live. I need to stop the recording, so let me do that. If anyone wants to stay and let me know how that was with some of those movements.